Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start the presentation. Okay, so briefly on the agenda, we're just going to go over briefly who we are now, what you currently have here, just a brief history of the technology and where we're moving to, what we're looking to install here in Sterling Oaks moving forward, and how we're going to do it, and a Q&A. So firstly, how are we at where we are today? We got acquired by Grain Management about 18 months ago. What that means for the company as a whole is a large sort of deposit of cash, basically. Our previous CEO said it best when he said that Cable Bahamas have really taken this company as far as we can. You need somebody else that can give you the investment to take you to the next step. And luckily for us, that's been Grain Management. Their focus is purely in the communication space. So acquisitions to do with small cell, small cable operators, things of that nature, is their sweet spot. Okay. So actually I'm going to pass this over now to David, who's actually going to talk about our growth and our planned expansion.
So one of the most important things in the acquisition of Summit Broadband by Grain was the investment not only into the people, the technologies that we use to service our communities, different tools to make our processes better and faster for residents, but also expanding the network. And what that does, as you see, planned expansion, current network, in the future, we want to make sure that we emphasize how all of this benefits your community. Although what we're going to be talking about today is how we're going to improve from the gate into your home and everything within the community. There's also a robust network outside of your community that essentially keeps redundancies in place, provides for better connectivity, and protects us in the event of major hurricanes or storms. But over the course of the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of expansion, additional headcount and resources tied to that growth, not just for new markets, but for markets that we serve in today, like Naples and Southwest Florida, Central Florida, and Orlando. Ultimately, the goal is to be able to provide the best possible services and products within the community and outside of it as well.
Thank you, David. So basically, let's talk about the history of deployment. So what you obviously have in this community goes back to early 1990s technology with HFC, hybrid fiber coax. What does that mean exactly? Well, we're basically fiber into the property to a node, and then you're feeding from the node through coax into the home. In 2004, we started to see what we would call GPON, or Gigabit Passive Optical Network. The first introduction of fiber directly into the home. 2010 came RSOG. Again, if you're in a condo building, fiber downstairs into an MDS closet, and then it splits up from there, coax up into the unit. So you're really still coax fed in your unit from downstairs in an MDS closet, right? Main distribution frame. And obviously what we're trying to give you here today, it's kind of spoiled it because we're going to be flying animations, but what we obviously want to give you here at Sterling Oaks in 2021 is what we call XGS-PON. That's really the next level of GPON. What does that mean? It basically means 10 times. So that ONT that's on that table over there, which we'll look at in a minute, the input of that base is going to be 1 gig by 1 gig. And what that means is 1,000 megabits download by 1,000 megabits upload. What you currently have here is 30 by 6. So you can do the math on that. It's a tremendous increase in bandwidth. Also, what you're getting with that is the increased reliability, right? We're going to be doing this with a brand new infrastructure. So it's a bit like, let's say down the road, they say, well, we need to build a new clubhouse, but we still need to have an existing clubhouse, right? So they start to clear an area next door and they start construction. They're still using the old clubhouse while the new one gets finished. The same kind of overlay is going to apply here. Your old infrastructure will stay in place. We're going to basically build all new conduit. It's on the table over there. Actually, not be grabbing that one. So all new conduits in through the facility, all new fiber. So it's a brand new infrastructure. And so really what's going to happen in this community is this orange pipe is going to be laid all over the place. It's going to be drilled in through with directional boring all throughout the community. And then fiber will go ahead and be placed into here, and fiber will come all the way up to the side of your property and all the way inside of your property. So what are the benefits of having fiber? Well, obviously you've got the increased speed, right? So we're going to be giving you 1 gig by 1 gig. The next levels up are 2 gig, 5 gig, and 8 gig. Why you're going to need 8 gig down the road, we don't know, but maybe when we're teleporting to Mars, maybe we'll need it. But at least that flexibility and that functionality is going to be there. Obviously, we own our own network here, all the way in Southwest Florida, all the way from just south of the river up in Fort Myers, all the way down through to Marco Island. You obviously want to pick a company that owns it all the way, in my opinion. There we go. Is everybody hear me? Is it working? Good. Okay. Fewer outages, brand new infrastructure, all fiber, right? There's going to be no coax that we're going to use all the way from out in the street, all the way through into the unit. And then obviously you want a platform that's scalable. So once fiber is inside of your home, what's the limits on that? Well, your really only limitations are your sending laser and your receiving laser. It's all going to be done over glass. So the limitations right now on the technology really just depend on the pieces of equipment. And that's where we're taking it with the 1 gig, 2 gig, 5 gig, and 8 gig. Okay, so the main focus of what we're providing, obviously free services, right? Reliable internet, robust TV through the IPTV platform, and phone. On the internet side, like I said, speeds up to 8 gig. You're going to have a dedicated connection inside of your unit. What does that mean? It means we're not sharing that service, right? It's not like a daisy chain service. Your speeds aren't going to fluctuate, let's say at 4 p.m. when kids come back from school and everybody jumps on. Each individual unit's going to get its 1 gig. You can do with that 1 gig whatever you like. We don't meter it. We're not monitoring it for speeds. We're not going to say to you, oh, you've reached a monthly limit now, we're going to slow you down. Funnily enough, this just happened to me personally. So the first time I'm on another provider, and because I've been using our IPTV product at home, I actually got a message the other day in my email saying you're at 75% of your capacity. So this is your first month. You're going to get no overage charges, but if you do this moving forward, we're going to charge you $10 for every 50 meg or whatever that it is that you go over. We're not going to do that. It's your gig. Do with it what you want. Obviously, static IP addresses are still going to be available to you. And then just a word on security, right? We do not provide a sort of antivirus protection. We get asked that a lot. Do you provide like a Norton antivirus? To me, like computer security is very personal. I'm willing to bet if you did a survey inside of Sterling Oaks, you're going to get a whole bunch of different answers about what they're using, what they prefer to use. I personally use ESET, but I don't know if many people even heard of that or use that. But what we do have is DDoS protection that's inherent on the edge of the network. And that is basically distributed denial of service attacks. And what that basically is people just hacking the edge of your internet speed to slow you down. So they're trying to send you all of this data so that you can't get to the internet the way you want to do it. Instead of that being at your premise and at your home, we're doing that on the edge of our network. So you're still going to get your gig of internet because all of that traffic isn't reaching your home. On the IPTV standpoint, we've got 300 plus channels. You're going to be getting the bass and track included in to start off with. And the lineups for that we're going to come across here in a second. You've obviously got the biggest feature that I think is this 72-hour rewind TV. This to me is absolute game changer. Because what it means is that if you come home and you're playing tennis out here and the program started 30 minutes ago. And you're like, no, I didn't DVR it, I didn't record it. You can actually go in and just go back in time. And you can actually go back in time. And you can go up to 72 hours on any channel. Now, I do want to tell you right now, that's the availability on every channel, but that could change down the road. Okay, so right now you can go back. People may turn around and say, well, we don't like people viewing that content, so we're going to start charging for it. But right now there's no geofencing on the box, which means you can take it anywhere you want to in the world and it works. And the same applies on the Rewind TV up to 72 hours. You're still going to have the premium channels available to you if you want to. Those will get billed directly to each unit owner if they want HBO, if they want the sports package, obviously seasonal sports packages, NBA League Pass, things of that nature. And again, you're going to have access to all of these channels on up to 5 streaming devices. So the other day I was showing Eric, if you've got a tablet, if you've got a child or a grandchild in college and they've got internet access, they can actually view the stream remotely on a tablet. You could be sitting in the Atlanta airport, you could be sitting in your villa in Tuscany, and as long as you've got internet connection, you can view the STB View app on a tablet from anywhere, because like I said, there's no geofencing. But again, I just want to preface that may change down the road. We have no plans to do it, but it's something that could change, bearing in mind it's a long-term agreement. And I'm not going to bore you with the phone, but obviously the phone is still available to you. Again, the 3 different plans, right? We have unlimited local, United States plus Canada, and then Western Europe, including landlines.
I would just add one technical note on the gigabit speed. Keep in mind that what we're building for you here, it's a full network upgrade. So the entire, the fiber, the equipment, everything from the cabinets to your home and what's in the home. The limitation when we install it will be the device itself, what the manufacturers have created, which today go up to 10 gigabit. In the future, if those devices, and they will, improve over time and can go up to 15, 20, 30, you name it, your infrastructure can already support it. So it's a matter of swapping out the device in the home. There's no need to retrofit or overhaul the infrastructure in the future, right? So you really are future-proofing for many years to come. And obviously, most of us won't be around when it's time to do this again, but what you're putting in the ground can support up to essentially 100 gig, right? As long as the equipment itself can support it. So a major upgrade from the wire all the way through to the equipment. Just wanted to add that in there.
So one of the things on the internet, you're going to be getting our new Wi-Fi 6 AX router. I'll ask Mark to go ahead and pass it to me. So every unit will be getting one of these. This has actually been custom made for Summit. So this is the device right here. Okay, it's just a regular stand-up. It's kind of like if people remember the Motorola, was it surfboard modems?
Yes.
So that's this device. And obviously, it's got the wide area network input on the back and also the local areas. And we'll show you that in more detail. And then the other thing here is also the what we call the extender, right? So this is this cylindrical device right here. And you're going to be getting up to 2 of these if needed. What decides what that is what needed? Well, if, for example, if you've got a garage, garages nowadays have cameras in them. I mean, I have a remote control for my garage through my Q, where I can put my garage door up and down. And they're now taking it to the point where they've now got cameras mounted on it. So now you can actually not only control your garage door, but you can actually see if your car is still in your garage. So all that requires bandwidth. So if we come and we install this device inside of your home, and you're saying, hey, Mark, hold on a second, I'm going to need an extender because my Wi-Fi coverage in the garage isn't good enough, then you will get up to 2 of these included. And obviously this is a mesh device, right? So we're creating a mesh inside of the home. This is obviously just showing the back of the devices, like I said. Why did this come up? Well, if you're on the ground floor and you're going to be using the main Wi-Fi device and you are on the second floor and you don't want to connect to the extender wirelessly, you don't have to, right? You can connect to this local area network port. And so if your office is on the second floor and you want a wired connection, you can go ahead and plug directly into the back. So I know this came up before. I know that Eric had a question regarding it. So if you do not like wireless connections for, let's say, your banking or whatever, and you want to use a laptop that's dedicated, by all means, you can plug in through Ethernet to those places. We'll quickly go over IP again. So this is a managed set-top box. What does that mean? What it actually means is, and it's actually it's pretty cool, I think, is it's a managed device, meaning if you've got an issue, and for example, you're for sure you recorded something and it's not there and you can't find it, you can actually call in and our staff can actually, with permission, go in and access this device. And they can actually take control of it, and you will see the cursor moving across the screen as they're controlling it remotely. Why is that important? Well, what we're trying to do is ease customer service, right? We're trying to make it so that there's a much better interaction between us and you, right? The standard thing about, oh, please reset your router. No, you know, at the end of the day, if you're saying it's not there, I know I recorded it. It might take someone to go in and say, well, there might be a bit of misuse here. You had it sorted differently, right? Because you can sort by date or by title. Maybe you're looking at it by title instead of sorting it by date. So it's a managed box, which means we have access to it. We can also run speed tests from it as well. So for example, if that device is not in a good location, you're using it wirelessly, we can actually run a speed test on that device and make sure that it's got the appropriate bandwidth that it requires. App on a stick, what does that mean? Well, if you prefer to use another device and you don't want to use, let's say, our box on an additional TV, you can use a Roku device. I actually went out and bought a TiVo 4K stream device, and you can just plug that into your HDMI, hook it up to the internet. You're going to download our SBB View app from the App Store, and you're going to control your TV through that device onto a TV. So it gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more functionality. Cloud DVR, you will get 50 hours of cloud storage. I do have feedback that says, well, 50 hours isn't a lot. You can rent additional hours up to 300. Personally, with the 72-hour rewind function, you're probably not going to need a lot of DVR sticks, right? So what we found with that is if you've got the functionality to rewind and watch, the chances are you probably don't need to DVR. But like I said, if you want more, you can go ahead and rent it. Rewind TV, we spoke about that before, but I just want to bring it up again. Right? It's a bit like the rules of Fight Club. It's a huge advantage just to be able to go back in time and watch it.
Right.
Greatest thing about doing that as well is when you go back, you're going to have the option to, let's say, you know, start it from the beginning. You can fast forward through something.
Yeah, I
started
taken care of. I got somebody to respond to me that I could see soon. So thank you for calling me back. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So if there's a program, for example, and you're like, oh, it's 30 minutes in, I'm just going to go ahead and restart this program, and then, you know, I can fast forward through all the commercials, so we'll hit the hour and then it'll be over. And obviously we've got a voice remote that's powered by Google. I was demonstrating that the other day, but I'll get back to it. You can ask it to tell you dad jokes. You can ask it what the weather currently is in Deal, New Jersey. You can ask it when the sunset is, all of those kind of sort of Google Assistant functionalities. And obviously, like I said before, base and track available to you on the devices and with Direct Connect. So you're going to have two IPTV boxes in your package. If you've got a second guest room, and this is the box, it's very, very small. Like I said, you can put it very easily in your hand luggage and take it to Tuscany with you. But you're going to get Direct Connect, so you will get those base and track lineups straight from a coax wall jack in your home directly to the back of the TV. Do a channel scan on your TV remote, whatever brand it might be, and you're going to get those lineups, about 107 channels without the need for a box. So if you've got a third and a fourth TV or a fifth TV inside of your home, you've got maybe two on your lanai, but you just want the base and the track, you don't need additional channels, you can just direct connect those. Of course, if you have a smart TV, you can also download the app, and then that way you can actually watch this content on that TV. We're coming out with a list very shortly of what smart TVs, because the word smart TV is not the same for everybody. Companies like Sony lock their app stores down. So if you can't load the Summit View app to it, you're not going to be able to use it like that. So please don't go out, you know, purchase a TV because it says smart TV on the box, and then you bring it home, and because it doesn't have access to the app store, you can't download the app. It's not going to work. We've already covered this, but like I said, it's a managed set-top box. It does allow us to go ahead and look at the features on there, show them to customers if they need some, sort of continued education on things of that. Again, it's just important to have that interaction between the customer. Again, I had a problem with my provider the other day, and it was the same thing. We found, you dial in, oh, we've got issues with your router. Please go ahead. Can I resend the reset signal? Yes, you can resend the reset signal. What we're trying to do is just make it easier for the customer. So if we can manage the box remotely and do diagnostics, it's more advantageous and it speeds up customer service. These are the devices. These are the devices. They're all brand new. We're starting obviously with the AX router. We went ahead and we saw the ONT. Number 3 here is the Wi-Fi extender, and this is the ONT device, right? So again, this is what makes the magic happen. So it's a very, very small device. It's got inputs on here and outputs. Fiber terminates inside this box. Every single unit gets one of these, right? So everybody gets a fiber strand. Everybody gets a termination into this box. And this is what separates your phone and your internet in your home. The set-top box is this small device that I was showing you guys before, very, very small. And then the voice remote is this guy right here. Again, it's got the Google Assistant universal logo now that they're using on that device. And you've also got a low battery indicator here on the front of it, which is very nice, because if you're trying to control your TV and nothing's happening and you've got a glowing amber light in the front, then you know it's time to change the battery. Biggest change, right? So absorb this for a second. Eric, what's the biggest change that you see on this list? I was hoping you were going to say this part right here, right? To me, that's like the biggest game changer. Yes, you're going to get all brand new infrastructure, and you're going to get DVR storage that you don't have. You're going to get more set-top boxes, the rewind TV, all of those features. But the biggest thing for you guys has got to be the internet speed, because everything that you want to, every company and everybody you're communicating with, they're all increasing their bandwidth, right? So years ago, when you had a lot of bandwidth, but another business didn't, and you were like, oh, wow, I've got 10 meg of internet, right? Not so many years ago. That was great. But if the business you were doing, trying to communicate with only had 2 bonded T1s, then your 10 meg doesn't do you very much good, because you can only, go as fast as they can. So when we're direct peering, which we now do with major providers, that's that increased speed that you need. You've got multiple devices in your home. Like I said, you've got cameras. They've now got, cameras inside refrigerators. So that, if you're in Publix or the grocery store and you're like, do I have eggs? You can actually view your camera inside of your home. All of that requires bandwidth. And most people today, if you do a scan in your home, I have 17 devices connected in my home. I literally thought that just can't be right. But am I guilty of the refrigerator? I don't have a camera in it. But what I do have in my refrigerator is it does tell me when my wife lets the door open, because not only does it beep, but I get a little alert come up on my phone. You can, if you're doing groceries, you can ask for it to start cooling down remotely, things of that nature. That stuff is here today, and it's more and more of it's coming down the road, right? People are going to know when their mail's delivered. They're going to know when their garage doors are. Controlling your AC units, all of that.
And I would add one extra point on this from a technical perspective. We inherited the network that's here today, and I think most of you that have been here for some time understand that it was put in by a different provider. It was a different contract, different way of operating. And obviously what we're putting in here, it's all fiber-based, which number one is going to allow for these faster speeds. The beauty on the upload, meaning how we send information back to the internet using Zoom and different schooling and educational type tools, gaming, etc. The limitations are on the upload speed. With your new solution, there will be no limitations on the upload speed. So we're providing symmetrical speeds, where many providers that are going to essentially want to win your business are going to be limited on the upload. So they may be bringing in fiber, but limitations on their network don't allow them to get to 1,000, over 1,000 or more. Remember, we talked about being able to go up to 10,000 if you needed to go to that speed. Second, these are dedicated connections. Today, you're on a shared network. So roughly every couple of hundred homes, that connection is being shared across those several hundred homes. So whatever speed is being offered, if you're all on at the same time, those speeds are degraded, right? It's like if we're all sharing from the same glass of water, there's only so much to go around. With these speeds, everyone gets their own dedicated connection, right? It's huge, especially with a community of this size. And when everyone's here during high season, it's very important that that connection be yours, not only for the speed and for the transport in and out of your home, but also from a safety and reliability perspective and security, right? Very important. Just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Dave.
Yes, also, the router changes. I mean, this is all brand new equipment, right? The current router that you have is the older AC router, right? Circa 2013. We're going to be giving you the brand new AX router. I mean, everything you're getting in here is bespoke for your community, and it's all the latest and greatest. 2 voice remotes. I showed you those. Right now, you're limited to watch TV everywhere, whatever channels. I think it's about 92 that's on that list, somewhere around there. Now you're basically going to have access to all of them, right? So whatever you're subscribed to is what you're going to receive in your home and remote. So if you go ahead and you add an HBO subscription to your home, you're also going to get that on your tablet and mobile device as well. You've also got the biggest thing here, which I'll show you when I show you at IPTV, are the apps, right? So right now you have no apps for your device. You've got to go out separately and go to each individual app. With the new box, you can actually load apps to the device and watch those directly from the Amino box, from the set-top box. Again, so this is really what we're looking at from a bulk offering to the community, right? So we've talked about the IPTV, the base and the Trek lineups, the included cloud DVR, the Rewind TV, and the gig by gig of internet. From an equipment standpoint, what we're proposing is 2 IP set-top boxes. Like I said, you're going to have 5 additional streams on those, whether it be tablets or smart TVs. But if you prefer, you can go ahead and rent another IPTV set-top box, $9.99 per month. But the bulk is looking at including 2. You currently only have 1 HD box. That obviously comes with 2 voice remotes. You'll be getting the brand new Wi-Fi 6 router. As I said, the contract will have in there up to 2 extenders if need be. And you're obviously getting an ONT. The proposal is a 10-year agreement between us. But another biggie here is this option to cancel the TV portion. Why is that in there? Well, because in year 3 or 4 or 5, you may decide as a community, hey, we went out to vote and we found that 75% just want internet because everyone's streaming. You can come back to us and say, we'd like to drop the Volt video component. And at that point, we would drop it out of the agreement. Flexible, you may never go ahead and use it, but it's baked into the agreement right from the get-go. So if there's a board change down the road in year 3 or 4, and you came back to us and said, oh, we want to drop the bulk, it's no, oh, we're going to have to negotiate that. There's no option to do that. That's going to be in there from day one. This is the current lineup that you're going to be receiving. It's very, very similar to what you see in DigiBasic and HD Gateway today, right? So we've split up the base and the Trek. You've obviously got the music channels included as well, but it's the general sort of list of favorites. You are going to get things as well, though, like Big Ten, the ACC network, all of the new news channels are in here included as well. And you've obviously got access to the things like, the C-SPAN and the governmental channels if you need pop on the slate. Those are all included. But it's really just like the favorites. The additional packages that you can go ahead and add are going to be Ascend and Peak. So think about climbing a mountain, right? You've got base, Trek, Ascend, and Peak. You can't get Peak without including Ascend. It's basically $17 to add Ascend and another $10 to add Peak if you want those lineups as well. And then obviously, plus you can add your HBOs and your Showtimes and seasonal sports packages. Another tool that we've gone ahead and introduced, again, just to better that customer service experience, is the Tech Fix. This allows you to diagnose fixes more easily. You can download that today. If you look at this slide, this is actually screenshots from my phone. What you will notice is this code key here up at the top. So when you call into customer service, you've already done all of your network scanning. If you want to go ahead and take a photo because you want to show that a light at the front of your router is red or whatever, things of that nature, then that code key is basically the link to this app. So again, it's just instead of you calling into customer service and starting from 0 and having to explain everything, Now you've got a tool at least that you can use at home. You may not even need to go ahead and call it. It's going to give you a suggestion. Hey, you know what? Your router might be unplugged, or you've moved it too far away from a device, things of that nature. So these are just tools that we're adding and giving to customers just to enable that experience to be a lot better improved. From a build out perspective, I've already talked about this a tiny bit, but we're going to do an overbuild, which means that we're going to be bringing in brand new conduit, brand new equipment, brand new everything. Think about that scenario like I said to you about the clubhouse, right? We're going to build a brand new clubhouse right next to your existing one. And then when everything's good and ready, you're going to move straight into the new clubhouse, right? You'll obviously still have your Ripple that will be included. Stephen's sitting right here. You can also able to assist, but it's going to be quite simple. It's going into a backend, scheduling your appointments, scheduling your fiber ins. We require 2 appointments into every hub, right? First appointment, we ask for up to 4 hours. It's called fiber in. That's basically bringing the fiber into every single home. And then the second appointment will be actually turning up the service. If the contract will have a start date, so we obviously have to have all of this completed prior to that start date. If people are not here and someone says, you can't come into my home, I'm on a 2-month cruise around the Mediterranean. 2-month cruise around the Mediterranean. I don't want anybody in there. You can schedule that so when you get back. So we're local, we're here, Mark is here, we all reside here. We're trying to make this transition as easy as possible. But if somebody doesn't want us in their home prior to them being here, by all means, we can go ahead and set that up. Go ahead, schedule it to the day after you return from vacation, and we'll go ahead, pull the fiber into your home and go ahead and terminate it and get your services up and running. One advantage about being the incumbent, though, is that your old service will still be on. So rather than having a contract end with one provider and those services stopping, and there's a time frame between your new service, you will still be up because obviously we're the incumbent provider and we're the new provider. So just because our contract start date says on it January the 1st, if you don't come back till February the 1st, well, your old services will still be up and running. So when you come back and it's 10 o'clock at night, you're still going to be able to watch the old TV. We're not going to be shutting that old plant off probably for a while. So this, again, so we're going to be holding town halls, hopefully, whether they need to be on site here or whether or not we have to do them over Zoom, depending on where we are at that point in time. But what we'd like to do really is have our team come in here, do a couple of town hall meetings. Obviously, it's changed. Channel numbers are going to change. We want to talk about the lineup, start talking about the equipment, things of that nature. The sign-up process, like I said, is going into a web portal and choosing those dates for your fiber installation and then your turn-up. And then, of course, we do have our proper liaison who's sitting right there.
Again, and just understanding that there's an entire team behind the scenes that's going to be working on this project prior to physically putting a shovel in the ground. Everything from our designers, our engineers, our construction folks. Once we're on site, then that's a whole nother group of cast members on the Summit side. You've got our fiber technicians led by Mark Green and team. You've got the construction folks. You've got our installers. You've got our launch account managers, our project managers. So we're really bringing in tons of resources to make sure that the project is as smooth as possible and that disrupts your business and your community as little as possible. We do thousands of these unit conversions and upgrades and projects per year. So our teams have tons of experience in overbuild scenarios. So this would not be our first. And again, we have tons of dedicated resources that would reside on site and working on the project for the duration of the project.
Thanks, Stephen. We'll go ahead and get into the IPTV demo in a bit. Again, this is actually screenshots from my phone. So, if you want to hang around afterwards, I can show you devices with the app running. But again, it's going to be, a real simple guide. It's going to mirror practically what the app looks like through your IPTV box that you can see on here, right? So I was basically using 5% of my recording. Obviously, I'm an employee, so I get to use 300 hours of DVR storage, as you can see here in the top right corner. But you guys will be getting 50 to start off with. But like I said, you can always add hours. But basically, this is just showing you those recordings. So if I'm on my phone right now, I can go ahead and click, copy and jot, or maybe that's why it's not. And you can just go ahead and watch them. These are all available to you. So if you're traveling and you've got access, now there's internet and flights. So you can hook up through the internet on the plane and you're traveling long distance, you can start watching any of these recordings. So all you need to access this app in your device is an internet connection. But before we actually get into the demo, are there any questions about what we went over in the presentation that we will need to go back in slides for?
Can you hear me? I can't see myself.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, well, you don't need to see me. I'm Chap Colucci. I'm the president of the association here. I just want to clarify something. We're going to be getting all new / different equipment, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's fine. Now, if I got this equipment and I started installing it, I might finish it by Christmas. So the clarification I need is that Summit is going to come into my home and install this equipment for me. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. So basically, obviously, we've got a lot of lead time. Obviously, we haven't talked about any dates of starting that yet, but obviously for a project of this, we really like anywhere from between sort of 8 and 10 months advance time, right? So to David's point, we've got to have planning. We've got to know how we're going to dig, right? This isn't just a case of bringing in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the logistics, I mean, it's complex, but in simple terms, when I get this new equipment, I sure as hell don't want to try to install it myself because my wife and I'd get a divorce because I'm so technically challenged.
Sorry, we've got a guy blowing outside the outside here with a leaf blower. But basically, yes, the 2 appointments, the fiber ins, but more importantly, the second one at turn up is when all of the equipment gets installed. It's also where Mark and his team make sure that if you've got wireless devices and tablets, that they're working correctly, that they're connected to the internet. If you've got a phone line that you're moving over to the new service, we have to make sure that's operating and is working. And so you will be using the new service prior to the contract start date. But yes, everything is installed. This isn't like a box of goodies that we deliver at the door and ring the doorbell and run off. This is all obviously professionally installed. It's all tested to make sure that the boxes work on the TVs, to make sure you familiarize yourself with the voice remote and it works. And like I said, we've got a liaison that's available to the board. We've obviously got back-end customer service. We'll be having how-to videos. This is a partnership, right? It's not going to do us any good if we don't do a good job switching you over from the old system to the new system. And as David's point was, we're doing this day in, day out with a bunch of other communities.
Thank you. You've answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah, there's how we minimize damage to the lawn driveways. This spring we did some digging out around the streets and put in the orange cable, and they left the lawns a mess. They left after that. The driveways over there with the line cracks afterwards. New driveways. So what's the plan to minimize damage?
Okay. Mark, you want to come up? Yeah, so we just had a question, and Mark's going to come in here and answer it. But basically, we just had a question about how we minimize damage during construction, and Mark's going to go ahead and answer that.
All right, so to minimize the damage, obviously we do things like locate, go off of our prints. We try to follow the same paths that we've already, disturbed ground, or where there is disturbed ground. And then anything, we do a complete restoration after any type of ground break, whether that's sewing in the cable and pipe, we bring it back to like new status. So if we want to come in, put everything in, and make it like you didn't know we were there. I'd rather everybody go, hey, these guys haven't come down my block yet, because we've sewn the grass back together. We've replaced the sod. If there's a damage, we get it repaired. We don't want to leave you in a worse position than before we started this. We want to leave you in a happier position, because this infrastructure being put in without hurting your way of life, without disturbing your house or your floor.
And I'd add that, obviously in the scenarios that I think you're referencing, many of those were emergency restorations or repairs. And obviously the pressure and the anxiety and the speed at which we need to get everything restored works a little differently than a pre-planned project. When we're bringing in, and obviously we swapped out, firms, obviously we brought in a nice, probably much more sophisticated engineering firm after that scenario happened. And we spent a lot of time making sure we plan thoroughly, locate, and then repair and restore quickly. When we're on site for the project itself, again, you're going to have fiber crews, you're going to have project managers. Their scope of work is built around making sure that we minimize the amount of disruption that we had to do to the ground, to driveways, to any irrigation lines, water lines, et cetera, by planning ahead of time, the design factors that in. And then if anything needs to be restored, it's restored right away. There will be scenarios, right? Sod sometimes doesn't cure properly. Maybe overwatering, underwatering. We'll restore that again if needed, as long as many times as it takes. If there's any damage to irrigation lines, call it pavers, et cetera, we repair those as well. But the goal is to work closely with not only our staff, but with your property staff, with the residents, if they happen to have landscapers, et cetera, to make sure that we can pre-plan and capture as many of those potential challenges ahead of putting a shovel in the ground. So a lot of work goes into that prior to, and when anything is disrupted, right, or we have to dig or bury or restore, make sure that it's up to standards and then some. In many cases, it'll be better off than what we actually got it.
Follow up on that. If I understand the main fiber going through the conduit, that goes into the existing nodes.
No.
Are you going to use the same nodes?
Nothing. The two networks will run parallel until the new one is completely operational. And then after a certain amount of time, normally 6 months of no use, then we shut down the other one and it's no longer in use.
Am I going to have a node box in the ground next to the old node box?
So this one works.
And a new PED by the old PED, where there's still another PED from Comcast and from.
I got what you're saying,
Yeah.
Mark.
I mean, there's
The
one,
flower
two,
pot.
three,
Yeah,
I
so
got,
yeah, come on,
I got
come
3
on.
or 4 of them now.
I got you, Mark. I know exactly what you're talking about. So, a vast majority of fiber optic networks these days are built using underground systems, especially in Florida. We use underground for just about everything. We don't have to have above ground penetration. So let's say a pedestal, except for in certain locations where I would have a distribution panel, because let's say that fiber has to break up into separate drops, go to each home. That I can't put in the ground because I'd like that. Oh, there you go. That's something you can see. Now you're not going to see this at every house. It's not going to be at every easement. You're not going to have it in between the houses. This is like a centrally located depending on number of houses. Everything else is ground level. So you'll see things we call flower pots. It's just a term we use in the industry. In reality, it's a smaller ground wall. Sometimes you see them for irrigation valves, like irrigation control valves, things like that. Same size, green, small, goes in the ground, it's flush. For the larger openings, we call them ground vaults, right? These vaults are also, they're green, they're ground level. There's no protrusion, and it's going to be in an easement, but it's not going to be every house either. There's multiple dwellings fed off of this one distribution spot. So it's not going to be, here's your old ped, here's another ped, let me put 2 ground vaults, and then let me put a splitter cabinet there, just for good measure. No, we're not going to go that way. Number one, doesn't make sense, and it's an eyesore. So we're not going to add and exacerbate that situation.
That's a question that I've gotten from several.
Oh, I'm sure.
Now this, depending on the size of the community, in this one, you'll probably see 1, maybe 2 of these.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's a main distribution line. So I'm sure you're not going to see that down every street. You'll see them strategically placed. And obviously the goal is to hide them as much as possible. But yes, the majority of everything else is underground. You wouldn't see it until it comes up inside of home, and you'll see a small piece of pipe or conduit where we connect the equipment to the side of the home where all the utilities are.
I have to follow up. After 6 months, when you cut the old service, some of those green eyesores that stick up out of the shrubs?
I think typically it depends on our conversations on how we want to handle that, right? It's a pretty intense removal process. But yes, if we aren't using them, then we definitely remove the above ground appliances or furniture. And then we leave everything else underground and sub it out and not have to touch it. But again, it depends on, the conversations that we.
Your attorney, I believe, has been advised of the contract language you inherited.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Yep.
yes. The thing
But
about,
removal, though, I just want to make sure we understand, there's two aspects to removal, right? Certain things are much easier to remove. Other things it's best to leave underground so not to cause additional damage or harm to the infrastructure, the ground, et cetera.
Yeah, the other point is that we will only touch it as well as we're 100% sure that we're not using it for anything. So, if there's lines jumped, if there's anything in there from past United Telephone or Sprint or Lumen or whatever, then we've got to leave it. Same thing goes to Comcast equipment. We're not gonna touch someone else.
Can't touch those.
But yes, if we identify that something above ground is ours and it can be easily removed, then we're going to do it. If removing it's going to cause damage to something else that's around it, we may go, hey, Mark, we're thinking about removing this, but if we pull this out, we're going to pull out all the roots from this bush. Do you want us to do it? And we're not going to.
We strategically would work together on that and identify them throughout the community. And then once we have sign off, then we can remove.
David, my understanding is, what is your policy for snowbirds who want to put their system on?
It's a benefit.
Okay, so the question was, what do we do for snowbirds who want to put their services on vacation? So the same thing will apply as you have today, right? We're going to have what we call vacation holds on anything that is not included in the bulk. So for the 2 IPTV boxes, they're just on because they're included. But if you rented a third box, there's going to be a charge for that. I believe it's $2 per month per piece of equipment. If you paid for, let's say, HBO at the beginning of July, and you go on vacation on the 10th and you say, oh, I forgot I didn't need to pay for the whole month, you will call in. You will say, please suspend my HBO service. It will be suspended from July the 10th, prorated, and your bill will just carry a credit balance until you return and turn that HBO service back on. So everything outside of the bulk that you personally get a bill for, you can put on vacation hold. Equipment, there's a charge for. Phone, there's going to be a reconnect fee. But obviously you don't need to keep paying for those services. So if you're going away for 4 or 5 months a year, then yes, all of those additional services you can put on vacation. Things like HBO don't carry in a charge for, because it's not a piece of equipment, there's no reconnect fee. So that's just a prorated whatever's left at that month. Same thing would be for phone, but just bear in mind when you turn the phone back on, there's a charge for it. So if you're only going away for a month, it may make not financial sense to shut it off, because if you're only going to save $1, there's no point in doing it.
Right. Yeah. Another question from one of our residents. Are you going to upgrade the wiring in my house to Cat 6 wiring between the ONT and the other box, the modem router? Or am I going to live with what I have?
Okay, so the question was, what are we doing for upgrading in-unit wiring? So let's be clear. The only wiring inside of a home that we would use moving forward is the internal coax wiring that we're using for direct connect. So remember earlier I said if you've got a TV that's in, let's say, the kitchen or on the lanai, and that's got a connection straight out the wall jack, that's going to be using your existing coax. The internet coming out of the ONT, it's obviously fed via fiber. Going to the router, we're going to be using an Ethernet cable, right? Jumping from the ONT to this device, there'll be an Ethernet cable, and then you will be wireless. If you want to connect Ethernet, you're going to have to plug in an Ethernet cable to the back of this, to a desktop or a laptop. But unless you want us to do custom wiring in your home, like let's say you said, hey, you know what, I'm building a partition here in this room. Can you please go ahead and put an Ethernet jack on the wall? Well, there's going to be a charge for that. By all means, you can call your own low voltage contractor to do it, but for a minimal charge, we can go ahead and do that. But we're not going to be running Ethernet cables all over the home for dedicated Ethernet connections.
And I would add that the sophistication of the system now allows us to power set-top boxes, tons of devices all wirelessly. So not only because of how the system's not working, this is a Wi-Fi 6 system, brand new. But now you also have more bandwidth coming into the home, right? You've got 1,000 over 1,000 to be able to feed all the devices. So no longer is there a need to rewire a home and disturb the home because it's pretty damaging when you start pulling wires and costly. But now you can feed everything wirelessly and not struggle. In the past, you wouldn't be able to do that because of not enough bandwidth or the equipment itself couldn't support it.
There's a problem. If someone has a PC whose wireless capability is 800 megabits, but if they hardwire it, it can get better. We're going to force them to be wireless.
Well, we're not forcing them to do anything, but if you want to take a wired connection, then the only way to do it is going to be out one of the back of the LAN ports. So my suggestion would be that you're going to put this wireless extender next to your office PC, and then you're going to use the LAN port on the back of here and wire from the back of the LAN into the back of the PC.
Yeah, there's these meshes which are rare to have ports on the back of the mesh device allow for that connectivity.
So I think the question that I'm gonna get to is that I live in a condominium. And right now I bought the condominium 2 years ago, and I'm finding that whoever before me had all this coax cable, RJ6 or whatever, it's all over, it's got splitters in it, and that's where my TV, my bedroom TV, I got one in the living room, I got one, here and there, one on the lanai. It was all done with coax cable that, doesn't work half the time. You're going to provide a fiber directly to that unit with the ONT. However, if they want it out on their lanai, and they either are going to have to go wirelessly streaming out there, because we're not going to take the old jack out of the wall and pull new line to that lanai so they can plug their TV in there.
We're connecting to the existing of the DMARC. So think about it this way. I take a wall plate off and my DMARC in the home is behind us. This is where your one coax came in and then split out throughout the home. We're connecting on the front side of that. So the minute we connect into that front side, we're feeding everything existing in the home. So those outlets on your lanai are going to go live again. They're just going to continue to stay live.
Unless the wiring between that DMARC and those jacks are bad.
Keep in mind that the set-top box is a wireless box. Right? So on the lanai, the patios, etc., where we normally wouldn't have a telephone connection, you can take that box now and stream to your set-top box or your device.
Just thinking about the people.
Yes, I get what your question is. Sally, the kicker is I see is this: if the coax jack is working today, it's going to work in the future. If it's not working, if you know that we're coming into your home and you know that jack is not working, right? You just that jack hasn't worked in 4 years. Then say to us, hey guys, how much would it be for you guys to run a new coax cable from this wall from behind this plate to my lanai? And if we say it's $3,000, you're not going to do it. But if we say it's going to be $60, then you may turn around and say, fine, go ahead and run it. But it's all this stuff is low voltage from a coax standpoint. But what we're really trying to make everybody do is move away from anything that's wired. But yes, if you've got a video wall on your lanai for watching Sunday football, then that's all fed by a coax. It's all going to work again. But if you know that one of those jacks doesn't work, it needs to be repaired.
I think that's going to just be a crucial communication standpoint to the individuals, especially in the 300 units that are over here that are dealing with old RJ6 that's still in their floors coming up through the bottom, common closets.
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues that we run into is how was that RJ6 installed, right? Like, if it was stapled, it's going to be hard for us to re-pull a new line. It's a question of access. I mean, if you've got a wall up, and we can't pull anything out and we can't feed, we can't wire fish, then we've got issues. But again, what I'll stress again is we're trying to work with you. We want to be able to use Sterling Oaks as a reference. We want to be able to come through, do this, and have these guys blew our mind, they wowed us. So it's a question of our level of customer service. We're going to try to work with you. The good news is that's not going to apply to all of your residents. What we're going to have is a few one-offs where they know a jack doesn't work. We're coming into your home to fix it. Just say to us, how much is it going to be to give me a live jack in that room? I mean, it's
And what we find is that a lot of the folks that have those limitations, and we know there are many, not just in your community, but outside of it, especially when they're coming over from a traditional cable company, they don't have an option to go wireless. So they're stuck with that line that's there today. And to redo the entire thing is extremely costly, patching, repairing, it's a nightmare, especially if there's finishes on the wall, wallpaper, et cetera. So we've obviously heard that loud and clear from potential businesses and residents that have said, how do we then progress and provide better products, but using wireless technology and not have to stick myself to a wall, connect to a wall? So again, we source the best equipment there is. We work with the and manufacturers to say, there's our limitation. We're overbuilding into existing cable communities. We need the best in class as far as technology, the software, the hardware. And yes, we're going to bring fiber in. It's going to be asymmetrical, but then your product needs to be able to deliver, especially in large homes where you have multiple rooms, yard, et cetera. So you'll see that this will solve for that headache in many scenarios. And in the event that it doesn't, again, we'll treat those as one-offs. We'll figure out a solution for them. We're definitely not going to leave them hanging.
I have a DNS issue question.
okay.
We get a lot of complaints that we can't connect. The residents can't connect. They get DNS errors. And what are you doing to your internal, your own infrastructure to resolve those issues?
So I cover high level because when we try to be careful when folks are reporting individual issues and connectivity, because again, it can be a million factors, right? Creating that connection issue. But in general, we're investing significantly into the infrastructure. We're bringing in all new core equipment. So there's a massive project going on today. And whenever you guys want, we can bring our head of engineering and give you a whole rundown on what that is. But everything from our core routing, we're standing up a new optical network transport outside of your facility. We're swapping out the types of switches and gear that we use. We're installing redundant networks throughout from Southwest to Tampa to Orlando, back to Miami, back to Jacksonville. So there's a lot of work. I mean, we're spending about $100 million to improve overall connectivity throughout the entire network, right? And then that will then feed into your personal network in your home. But short of boring you guys to death with all the details, massive investment, tons of projects. There's 4 large projects going on today that our head of engineering can speak to, but everything from improving the internet connectivity to the voice connectivity to video picture quality and everything in between. So lots going on, and that'll take place over the next 12 months. So as you're going live with new technology, hopefully with Summit, you'll see those benefits right out of the gate as we install your new service.
I understand this correctly. Fiber comes into the house from the ONT that feeds the coax junction box. Is that correct? And how do we get into the coax?
So the ONT is gonna, first thing it's gonna do is gonna feed the router, core router, right? From there, that router then feeds everything else. It's gonna feed all the set-top boxes, et cetera.
The implication that I'm hearing is that the ONT, the fiber termination, the ONT, and the router are going to have to be within a reasonable location of the existing junction boxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's over the walls.
So the ONT will obviously go wherever the demarc is, and that's usually, we call it a demarcation point. It's usually the end of the coax run coming into any building. All right, beautiful, sorry. So that's, the ONT is always going to be in close proximity to that older coaxial system, right? Only because that's where the home run comes in, even in the single family homes, always goes to the same point, right? To feed your coax, which your question, how are you going to do that? Is kind of what I had heard.
Well, no, my question is for argument's sake.
Yes.
I have a panel.
Oh, yeah, smart panel?
Above the door.
Okay. Gotcha, yep.
Now, we're going to have to build a shelf on that panel, the router and the ONT. I mean, what's it going to look like?
Each house will be a little different. We do, there's an enclosure, we call it a PSI enclosure. It just get the 3 letters, that's why we use it as a term.
It's an enclosure that holds all this equipment. So this way I don't have to go, let's go to Lowe's together. Let's go buy a shelf and we're going to hang this right above that door. No, it's an enclosure that holds a micro node, a mini node, so I can give you traditional RF, the basic cable, we'll call it, for the, your guest bedroom that family only comes for 2 days a year. Perfect. Thank you,
So
Steve.
that's gonna go on the wall next to my.
This would, let's say that I can take this, the cable's up here, the box is up here. Inside that box is all the coax, right? Well, it's probably half sunk into the wall would be my guess, on most of it. So this would be the replacement for that, depending, if it's in your front door access, we're probably gonna look for something else, because I'm not gonna put that in the front door. But, this is an ONT enclosure. So inside when you close the ONT device, the micro node that gives you the traditional RF, your basic cable. But there's this one right up here. It's not that big. It's really not that big. It's the size of deck plane box, right? And any wiring that needs to come out of that can come out the back to feed. So this, I don't have a bunch of wiring hanging out this way going somewhere. That's how everything is fed. I don't have to give you a shelf. You don't have to put everything up next to it.
Well,
I really,
I don't know where.
yeah, I understand your question. So ideally, we're going to come into the house following the existing
Coax line.
And ultimately, yes, it's going to take us to the same landing in the garage or the kitchen, wherever it is. From there, we don't have to use that same location. We're going to position your new equipment within the general vicinity, but in a more accessible location. Right? So, exactly, and that'll hold the micro node, it'll hold your ONT, wiring, obviously, and then from there, we then start seeding out everything that we're feeding on. But yeah, we'll put it in a more strategic location.
Yeah.
And obviously, we'll ask the residents for feedback. Is this okay? Is this, an eyesore? Do you want us to move it higher, lower? But ultimately, we want to be able to access it down the road.
I'm gonna do it once.
But everything is enclosed, nice and clean, and it's tucked away.
The other big point to note here as well is that if no matter who you go with, it's all going to go run through the same system, right? Everyone has to go seat fiber to a DMARC location into an ONT location. One of the reasons why it's advantageous to have the gig is with your mind's thinking, you're going to say, well, hold on a second, I'm going to have bandwidth loss if I'm going to mount this close to the ONT and my first laptop is going to be in another room. Think about it this way. If I'm giving you a gig by gig from day one, even if I lose 30% of that, you're still going to get 700 meg at a laptop. If I'm only giving you 250 meg from day one, right, like some of our competitors do, and I lose 50% of that, well, now I'm only going to get 125. So one of the advantages of giving you so much bandwidth is that we're really also allowing for the fact that we know that these two devices have to coexist with each other, right? It would be great if we could mount this in a central location, but in some of the properties we go into, it could be the laundry room, and that's located way at the front of the condo. And they're like, well, that's not going to do me any good because my master bedroom's all the way over in my 3,000, 5,000 square foot condo. That's why we're giving you the extenders, because it's just like any other provider you're going to have. I've got to get from this router in my laundry room to the master bedroom. And the way I do that is through mesh and through popping and connecting devices. And that's why we're giving you up to 2. Again, it's just going to go back to that customer experience. If we go ahead and do this, and we hope we do, but then all of a sudden we're getting everyone complaining about bandwidth speed, that just doesn't do us any good. So to David's point, we had to take a step back because of the investment from Gray Management. We got a clean slate, and they went to engineering and said, if we gave you a sack full of cash and a clean slate, what would you come up with? And this is it. And it's awesome. I mean, I'm writing another provider and I'm watching IPTV at home. It's fantastic. I mean, it doesn't get better.
I would add that, these devices, there are a lot of mesh networks out there, a lot of extender type setups, but all they do is they take a strong signal and then they pass it to the next device. And by the time it gets to the end, they just pass the back signal from one device to the next. And so it's a poor experience all the way through. In this case, this is carrying a strong signal to the next device in the same capacity, the next device in the same capacity. So you're always providing throughout the home the highest level of connectivity. This isn't passing garbage from one device to the next. It's just keeping that same level of reliability, of throughout latency, not latency, from one end of the home to the other. And again, the way that, for those that have larger homes, the way that you solve for rooms that are at a distance, or even, homes that have many walls, artwork, et cetera, glass, you add another device, right? And again, you're just extending that mesh. You're not passing a weak signal from one device to the other. So this is state of the art. And again, I challenge you guys to find any provider that is invested to provide, Wi-Fi 6 over a gig symmetrical that can even go higher than a gig. It's rare. It's a costly initiative. Most are not willing to do it.
Anything else before we jump into the? Okay, we're going to switch to the IPTV.
Now it's coming in backwards.
No problem. Want the newest scores? At Taylor Number One, we've got a store for everyone.
Well, that's any problems with those
Every
captions.
color, every room, every style. They're all the same.
It's
This
coming
week,
back.
a high-quality Western buyer, hardwood, and custom carpet. Plus, interest-free financing for up to 12 months.
That's kind of
It's never been easier to get shares anymore.
It would be like if you were. Hey, Mark.
This one.
Mirrored image, because we're looking at it this way, it's kind of like, I bet you if I put a mirror and then you finish it on you. It's just, it's the same way.
It's only going to be an issue.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know where- Yeah.
Okay, so this is the IPTV product. Basically, when you connect the box, and once you connect, this is what we call the home ribbon. So when you press the home button on the remote, you're going to get a bunch of different choices. They range from obviously live TV to the guide. The guide obviously just gives you large icons, runs through everything from a standpoint of details about the programming, gives you icons from the individual TV stations as well. It's extremely quick, it's extremely fast, and you can literally hold it. Unlike some other competitors, you can scroll extremely fast. You can also use the channel up and down buttons, and it will actually page as well.
John, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
So one of the, like I said beforehand, one of the great things here is that you can see we've selected FX. It's right now showing Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. But I've got two choices here, right? I can watch this live, or I can go ahead and restart. So like I said to you earlier, right? This was started at 5 o'clock. It's now 5:15. So I've missed the first 15 minutes. I can just go ahead and select restart, and it's going to go ahead and start playing this from the beginning. And this is obviously just a previous program ending. And again, I can go ahead and fast forward through this. And as you can see, FX movie, and it's going to go ahead and start playing the Jurassic World movie. Now, obviously, you can't fast forward past where it is live, but you can obviously go ahead, if there's commercials on this channel, you can go ahead and stick through those. The next thing is going to be my recordings. This is where the DVR shows. This shows programs that were already recorded. I went ahead and actually recorded Spectre earlier today. And like I said earlier, you can go ahead and sort by title, by date, or when it expires. And this is what I was talking beforehand about managing the box. So let's say this order doesn't look right. I've got this sorted by date, but let's say you sorted it by title and you were like, I know I recorded something. I recorded yoga. Why isn't it at the top here? Well, it's because it's just sorting this alphabetically. So you can obviously say, well, I recorded that today, and that's then going to be at the top of your choices. It will also show you what's scheduled. The only thing I've got scheduled is recording this month. So that's why it's the only thing it's showing. And then the storage, right? Like I mentioned, you're going to be getting 60 hours of storage. This is actually showing you that I've only used 8% of 275. So what we recommend you do is you start with 50, you see where this percentage is. If you never exceed it or never get to close to 100, then you don't need to spend the money on getting any additional storage. On demand, obviously you're going to have all of these channels. We can go through things that are on my list, right? These were things that I picked up the other day that I want to go ahead and watch in the future. We obviously have the premium networks for on demand, with things like the Cinemax or HBO. And then we can also show you as well the TV networks. So if you're a big fan of things that are on Bravo, and unfortunately my wife likes Below Deck, and all of the $1 million listings and the Real Housewives of Atlanta or New Jersey, you can go ahead and select those. And again, once the program loads, it's going to start playing this particular episode. As everybody knows, you're going to get a fast forward is not available. The fast forward functionality actually will work at the moment, but that's really only because we haven't activated it. So don't get too excited that you can go ahead and fast forward all of your stuff. This feature will likely go ahead and cease contractually, but for right now, you can actually fast forward even though it's telling you that you cannot. Again, the biggest thing here are apps, right? You'll notice here, Disney Plus, HBO Max. As I was saying to Mark the other day, one of the biggest ones on here is Pluto TV. These are all apps that you can go and download from the App Store. Pluto is absolutely free, so you can go ahead, download the app. I believe it's becoming preloaded on our box anyway. And you can go into this and select anything that's showing on here, like movies. Right now, Pluto has a 007 channel running, so you can literally watch just Pluto 007 movies all day long. And these are free. This is nothing that we're paying for. You've obviously got the paid apps in there, the Showtimes and the HBOs, but you can watch anything that's on Pluto TV at no charge. And again, if you've got HBO Max or Prime or Disney, you can go ahead and run these. These are running straight from the box, and they're obviously going to show up just as if you've got it running on a tablet. So if you've got the Disney app and you're subscribing to that, then all of this content is available to you, and you're just using our remote to control this. So right now, and as you can see, if I want to go ahead and play a Star Wars movie, I can go ahead and select those, pick out whatever I want here, Mandalorian, whatever it might be, and play those. Again, I'm not changing out the box. I'm not switching from the TV remote to this remote. I'm not having to do anything. It's just basically these apps that are loaded, preloaded. There's also an apps button on the remote. It's all of the squares right here in this top corner. So if you want to, you can just press that and you'll go back to the app screen. One of the things I downloaded the other day, if you, for example, they may want to run this in the clubhouse or in the golfing or whatever, is this is actually a radar app which you can download for free. And you can obviously just find out where we are on this map, and you can actually see weather radar. So if you want to leave this up, like I said, in the golf or outside in the tennis, let's say you've got people playing tennis and they're worried there might be storms in the area. This is actually capable of zooming in to this particular area. You can just leave this running all day long if you want. And that's just going to be your weather map. You can zoom literally all the way in if you like. I was actually zooming in earlier, getting right into storm areas. But basically, you can see. Right, so this is just an app. This is the free app. You just went out there, downloaded it. You want to run it at home. You want to run it in Clubhouse. You can run it everywhere, and you can just leave this loop. What else in here? You're going to have, within inside of the guide, like I said earlier, how do you access and start watching from earlier today or previously? All you have to do is just press this arrow. You're going to select open the catch-up guide. And now you're just basically going back in time. And this is any program You know, if you wanted to watch People's Court from this morning, or sorry, from 1 o'clock this afternoon, and you're like, wait a second, I've got to go further back in time than that. You can just keep pressing the back button, and it's just going to load that information when it comes up. Yeah, it's gonna load. But basically, all you're doing here is going back. And like I said, if you wanted to watch Let's Make a Deal from 10 o'clock this morning, you can go ahead. And obviously, I don't want to watch it directly. I want to play this. This is literally just going to play this program from this morning at 10 o'clock. I didn't have to DVR or anything. I didn't have to subscribe to anything. I can just go ahead. And obviously, because it's recorded, you can skip through it. So if you want to jump in, it's playing right now. This to me is like one of the biggest features of the whole thing. Because there's so many times when you, let's say, went out, you forgot to DVR something, you don't want to go through apps on your phone, you were out to dinner with friends, you were having a great time, and you got back 20 minutes late. Now you can just go into this guide and either rewind something from earlier in the day or just restart something. That's literally one of the biggest things in here, is every time you go into this guide, you can go ahead and say, play live or restart it. So time has now just become irrelevant to you. It's 5:20. You want to start it from the beginning, you can just start that program from the beginning. So let's take a look at this, right? Fox News at 5. Watch it live. No, I want to restart it. Now you're watching what you want to watch when you want to watch it. Time has now become irrelevant up to 72 hours. You can go through all of these channels, rewind anything, start playing it. So there you go. This is news at 5 o'clock. It doesn't get any better than that.
Other apps like Amazon, YouTube and all of that are built in. So I don't need to use the on my smart computer access.
So obviously, if it's an app that's available inside the Google Play Store, because this is really what it's running, right? This is running Android TV. This is running Google TV. As long as you've got the account, right, you're subscribed to it. That's in German. But basically, all you're doing is just running that native app on this platform, right? So it's asking who's watching. We're going to select, I'm just going to select myself and whatever, but it's just running this app. So yes, I have a Prime subscription.
Yeah, it comes pre-recorded, but more most popular. Yeah, as an example, there's an app that I use that is available on my computer, but not available on my videos. So I'm kind of screwed out of one now. That app is available.
Yeah, Sony has a terrible lockdown program, and that's why. Listen, the best TV in my mind is to go out and buy, like, is it a TCL? One of those ones that just doesn't care what you're running. It's just like, I'm a television, run what you want. You know what I'm saying?
My point is, I don't envy is a streamer app. Okay, now that's just an example that I bring up. There are other ones. So like, well, let's choose another one. Like Flex Media Server.
Flex is on here. Sorry.
So that's on.
So Flex, I think I put Flex in here.
Okay, good. And that's one on your service, not on Smart TV.
Thank you. No, this is basically loading through this box. And you're really, so you're using our remote. The best thing about it is you're going to be able to run all these apps without switching anything. Because even like to my wife, the thing that she hates the most is that, you know, you're switching even between remotes. Now, like I showed you with Disney or HBO or whatever, you can just watch any of these things natively through those apps. And that's literally the biggest thing to take away from this. If it's available on Google Play, you can download it. And part of the best thing about this platform is think about the time that you guys are going to be signing up for. You've got to pick something that isn't silent. You've got to pick something that's agnostic to a bunch of different apps or a bunch of different carriers. Because at the end of the day, this is all being fed by money, and companies wanting to give as much as they can out in order to increase revenues. I mean, just think about it that way. So you want a platform, which is why we've tied ourselves, let's say, to Android TV and everybody else is, because there's only going to be a few emerging that you're going to be able to have all this functionality. And that's what we want, is flexibility. you don't want the board saying, we've recommended Summit Broadband, and in 3 or 4 years' time, you're like, oh, geez, we made a mistake. Like, you can't download this. We shouldn't have, had this proprietary box or this proprietary system. What you want is something agnostic, because the direction of everything nowadays is, again, what I said, what you want, when you want it, where you want it. And that's what this platform gives you. It just gives you the flexibility. Not so long ago, we had to record everything on a VCR tape, and that was it. Those days are gone.
If I choose a Roku box or a Fire Stick or something like that.
Yep.
Because I don't feel like paying $10 a month for that.
Yep.
Do I lose any functionality?
Yes, the only thing that you can't do through that for example, I said to you, I went out and bought a TiVo 4K stream, it's $39 from Walmart. Right, came home, connected it to the internet. First thing I did was downloaded the app, started running. The only thing I cannot do from that app is order pay-per-view. That's it. So yes, do I want to give Summit $9.99 a month? I can go out, and in actual fact, somebody told me they were on sale in Walmart for $29.
I know.
So yeah, so you can buy that device, hang it on the back. So that's what I'm saying. So this whole thing about buying the smart TV is depending on how you want to do it. If you've got an HDMI port today, you can just hang that device. And the funniest thing with these devices now, that 4K stream, because it's so weightless, you literally just plug it into the HDMI and just let it hang. I mean, it doesn't weigh anything. So there's no pull on the cable. You just leave it behind the TV, connects to the internet, and you're done. Anything? Oh, so real quick, just talking about a few things. Again, setups. This is obviously a menu. Remove devices. You might have to input if I do this, but what this is, these are the devices that I went ahead and added. Right. So, like I said, let's say I do have somebody that's in college and they're watching way too much TV and they're not studying. And you can go, hey son, I know I gave you access. Right, these are my devices. My LG pad, which is right there, the LG pad, and there's that TiVo 4K box. So you can just go in here and just select this device and just kick me out. Your grandchild or your son or whatever is studying instead of watching TV on a tablet. Some of the other things on here, into system again. One of the easiest things is this remote. When you connect this to a new television, because you're connecting through HDMI, it's talking to the box. So the minute you plug it in and run a simple scan on the TV, years ago, they used to give you that leaflet with all those codes in it, and that's done. You literally plug it in, you press simple setup, and it's within the wheel's going to go around, and then it's going to start controlling your volume, and you're done. I mean, there's no more little code booking. You can also tell it what apps you want to search, what apps you don't want it to search. You can ask it for things like, let's see, I'll go into live TV. This is resuming it site from earlier. If you want to go ahead and search, you can press things like, show me movies with Tom Cruise. Oh, no, I've moved the box. I've moved the box and then it doesn't matter. But basically, you can search for things like show me movies with Tom Cruise, you're going to get a whole list. If you select something like I did earlier, let's say it was Oblivion, it's going to show you what apps that's available on. And it just so happened to be this morning, Hulu was one of them. I have a Hulu subscription, so the movie started playing. So it's that intelligent, search functionality that you're looking for, and just ease of use. And with this remote, you can do all of those kind of things.
So then it is in my benefit to get the most shows.
To get the what?
When you have 6 TVs, it's been in my benefit to get.
Well, if you've got 6 TVs and you can download the app, then you can at least put that on 5 of them. Or yes, to your point, you can wait for those boxes to go on sale. You can go and buy 5 of them. Charge your neighbor an extra $10, and you can. but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's that's where it's moving to, right? It's just giving you that functionality, because all this really inherently is a Summit Broadband app. It's just called SBB View. It's on the Google Play Store right now. Any other questions? Is there anybody with any questions on the Zoom?
Alan's the only person left. Nobody else here.
Who's controlling?
Better wrap it up.
Close it.
Yep,
Okay.
we're good.
All right, if you want to say goodbye to everybody, because this is gonna go offline, I'm gonna stop the YouTube.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time.